and joining us from the Inquirer, who does a great job. Look, he's dressed. I get to see him. My main man, David Murphy. What do you say, brother? How are you?
Yeah, man, I'm really going all out for you. I when you first asked me to come on here, I just assumed we were doing the phone, or I forgot that you're all video all the time now, and I realized I had to comb my hair and put a shirt on, which was it's not my usual Monday morning.
Guess what? It's not mine either, brother. So I thank you and I appreciate you.
I'm glad to see you guys are fully clothed and kicking butt for that.
Well, we listen, for the audience, it's best that way. Let me ask you. I loved your column. I thought spot on that. Like, you got a sense of what the Knicks are and a sense of the matchups, and assuming that Embiid, that knee will hold up, you still believe that the Sixers are in this series?
Yeah, man. I mean, look, I now again, a lot comes about. There's probably some bias baked in from watching how they dominated that first quarter. But at one point, during the early going, I texted a buddy of mine who's a Knicks fan, and I said, "Dude, I mean, there's just a talent disparity between these two teams." And he said, "Just wait." Hey, I've been saying all season the Knicks are the last team besides the Celtics that I would want to play in the playoffs, because they're just, I mean, they've got a lot of that Miami Heat kind of just grind in them, and we've seen it. Those kind of teams have given the Sixers team problems going all the way back to that first Celtics series in 2018. I mean, when Scary Terry and kind of their band of misfits just wiped the floor with the Sixers that first year. But you know what? Before Embiid went down, we saw the big difference too. Embiid's just such a different player now. I think Nick Nurse has played a role in that. I think Nick Nurse kind of gave him a little bit of the lowdown on the book on him in the postseason and how to stop him, and he's just turned into a much more mature player. He's passing the ball. He's much more in control. So if he's in there, that's the big difference to me. I think they can beat a team like this, and I think they clearly have the talent. It's just a question of the big guy, as always.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Knicks style, David, and I couldn't agree with you more. Like, look at Tibbs, what Tibbs tries to do. Like, most coaches don't crash because they're afraid of runouts, and they crash. And they won the game because they got 23 offensive rebounds. I mean, the bottom line is that's why they won that game, because of all those second chance opportunities. And that's something that a lot of coaches don't do. No,
but you got to have the right team to do it. You are putting yourself out there. The problem is, it's easy to make the call to crash when you're going to win the rebounding margin 23-9. I mean, Josh Hart. I mean, what can you say? I mean, the guy's just he's a winning basketball player. And in Hardenstein, they've got a guy who can elevate and kind of just slop his way and grind his way to those tip outs, and it's tough. But look, all that being said, being out rebounded 23-9 in the glass, giving up 45% shooting from 3-point range, missing a number of ugly open 3-point attempts. We won't name names, Tobias. They still only lost by 7 points, and you're talking about, two of that 14 rebounding advantage and 2 3-pointers, and that's the game.
And honestly, it's a one possession game through the end of that game up until the end where it becomes 7.
Yeah, and look, I mean, Deuce McBride ain't gonna go Reggie Miller in the Garden every night, I mean, the kid's obviously very good, but he was unconscious. There's a lot of reasons to kind of proceed with caution after watching that in game 1.
What kind of rotational changes? Like you mentioned Tobias, and I think we all agree. What do you do with the Tobias factor? And how do the other issue was the bench. You got outscored 42-7 on the bench, a lot of it due to deuces, but what do you do rotationally to kind of counteract what you saw in game 1?
Yeah, it's funny. I was actually looking at it on my way home on I guess it was Saturday night. I don't know what you do. I mean, I think the the obvious move is to put Campaign in and give him Buddy Hield's minutes, because Buddy Hield is just giving you absolutely nothing. I mean, I've never been the biggest Buddy Hield fan in the world, but he can't get a shot off. He's just bringing nothing to the table right now. Now, I think there's an argument that you could do something really dramatic and put Hield in the starting lineup and maybe bring Tobias off the bench or something like that. But I don't know if Nurse is. I don't know if that's where he's.
I know. I can't see him doing that. I think that's too dramatic.
The problem with the Campaign thing, if you put him and Maxey out there on the court together, I mean, we saw how they were hunting Maxey with Bogdanovich, and they've got a size disadvantage there.
Yep.
Campaign's only going to exacerbate that. So it'll be interesting to see. But I think as unique of a player as Campaign is, he does bring you kind of that element. He's almost like Alec Burks that one year when the Sixers brought him on, or Dennis Schroeder has played that role in the past for a number of teams, where just like bring a guy in and have him change the pace a little bit. And if no one else is scoring when Embiid is off the court, put it in his hands,
Would you change up the way you deploy Joel? Right, like, so he likes to play Joel the entire third quarter. It's almost like I start to think about it and go, maybe you do the old, out the last 2 minutes of the third, first 2.5 minutes of the fourth, and then let him finish the game, where he'll be a little more fresh. Because again, we know with him, he needs to play rhythmically, right, to get his basketball wind up.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell because the game was so mucked up by him going out early. Who knows what the actual plan was at the end of the day. I mean, I think he played the entire first quarter, and I don't know. I haven't, honestly, at this point with Joel, I don't want to spend too many of my brain cells on it, because I don't know if he's even going to be out there or what kind of shape he's going to be in. So I think that's going to dictate a lot of it. I mean, to your point, I mean, look, let's not overlook the fact that Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart are playing 42 minutes a game. I mean, that helps your bench as well. When you basically got 10 extra minutes out of your two of your best players compared to what normal guys play. But I don't know, man. Like, what would you do? I think there's an argument. Look, I'm just brainstorming here, and Nurse is he'll think outside the box. Is there any argument for putting Paul Reed on the court for some rebounding help with? I don't know that there's any answers. Like, what do you think?
Listen, I've been talking about it all morning. Same thing as you, Murph. Like, I look at it and go, do I put Mo Bamba? I mean, the thing about Paul Reed that scares me a little bit is the IQ next to Joe. Like, he worries me a little bit that way. I have to protect the glass.
Here's my thing. I am probably a bigger Tobias kind of. I appreciate him a little more than other people in this market. But
yeah,
look, the knocks on him are real. Like he doesn't. He's not a finisher. He's a streaky catch and shoot guy. At best. But don't get me wrong, there are nights where like you needed those 5 or 6 possessions where he takes the ball in his hands and get to his spot and gets those points. It's. But if he's not bringing you anything, I guess the argument would be Paul Reed can just as easily stand in the corner and give you nothing, and at least crash the boards or box out a little bit.
It's interesting because Tobias played 10 minutes and 50 seconds in the fourth quarter, right? The most of anybody in the fourth quarter. I think that was the biggest issue. I go back to Batum. I'm not expecting Batum that he's 1 for 4 to give you what he did against Miami. I mean, that was kind of a blue snow type of game. But Batum plays great defense, and he can help rebound, man. Like, he can help you board. I need more Nico, I think, in that situation, because and less than Tobias in the fourth quarter, because I can count on Batum to kind of help collapse and help rebound.
Yeah, I'm with you, but I think against a normal team, maybe. But I don't know, like who on that court is Batum, out battling for a board. I think that's my number one thing is like if that guy's not going to bring you anything, whoever that 4th or 5th guy is, Is there
But
any way to use that?
athletically, when they shoot threes, he's got more of a chance. Remember, like the traditional, 6'11" guy,
Yeah, but I feel like
it's different with the way the trajectory of the basketball,
I don't know. I feel like Tobias is a better rebounder than Batum, no? Or at least can get up a little more.
Dude,
Look
Tobias has a refined
what we're
game.
talking about.
But like I'm with you. Like he's between 6'8", right? Like so they're both
Right.
similar, right? The issue is the Tobias. I like you. I love Tobias as a guy. I love the guy. I do. I love him. We did that movie Hustle together. Like I love the guy, but he just disappears, man. He's the friendly ghost.
I'm completely with you. I'm just, and again, I'm totally spitballing here. I don't know. The problem is there are no good answers. But I think I've always thought that Tobias, he's a guy who has always thrived or felt most comfortable with the ball in his hands, where he's kind of like your primary option type. I've always thought he would look good coming off the bench in a 6-man type thing, where he's kind of your offense.
I wanted to do it last year. I thought, yeah,
especially with them bringing Bogdanovich off the bench. It's almost like they're kind of similar players at this point. I mean, Tobias brings you a lot more on the defensive end, and I don't know. I'm very interested to see. I don't have any answers. I'm curious to see what Nurse does.
Yeah. The other thing I would do too, from a strategic standpoint, is they got Embiid off early, like they unleashed him early. Now the rhythm of superstars is everybody else goes early, and then they start to take over as the game goes. I don't think I would. I don't think I would do that in game tonight. I wouldn't unleash the Embiid until later on. I would try to get other guys going before Embiid.
Well, so at least from what now again, I haven't gone back and like sat down and broken down the tape or anything like that. But in real time, I was thinking of this, and I might have tweeted this, but they were part of that was a function of Tibbs came out and for whatever reason decided that he was going to make Joel beat him, and they were really kind of focusing their efforts on taking away Maxi's driving lanes and denying the catch and shoot three, and Embiid, to his credit, took full advantage of that, and then they switched. So again, he went out, so it's a little difficult to tell and how limited he was when he came back. But after he went off, when he came back in for that second shift, the Knicks definitely switched up to more like a little more zone look, which is not their bread and butter at all. But they definitely they
can't play the matchup like Miami though. Like you see the difference. They just can't do it, and they don't have anybody that can stay in front of Maxey.
No, and then here's your other thing, and I think this was like an underlooked aspect of that game because of all that happened. But he needs to be a guy. Look, Maxey needs to be a guy where Nurse needs to convince him when Joel isn't on the court and Tobias isn't hot and Buddy's not getting loose. You keep the ball in your hands and go Dame Lillard the way Dame did last night, and just dribble, and it's a higher percentage shot if you're going to shoot at the end of the shot clock than if you pass to somebody who's going to brick a three or lose the ball or whatever. I think I think that happened because if you remember, early, at least the first shift in the second half, I think Maxey came out and like 3 straight possessions did exactly that, and like did not look very comfortable doing it, and it was pretty much 3 wasted possessions. But you got to get him to a point where he's comfortable with that. Like it goes against his DNA. He's a team player. He's deferential. He wants to play the game the right way. But I think for the Sixers to win this series, he's going to need to be the offense in those non-Embiid minutes.
Yeah, spot on. And you saw it, like you said, during that time period where he just broke down his defender every time. And he could do it.
Yep. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like just no one's going to take the ball from you. Just it's interesting. He's so fast, and he's gotten better at it this year. But the thing that like the guys like Brunson and Harden, and I do think playing with Harden helped them, but he just needs to slow down a little bit sometimes, and like use the change of pace. Because if you're going at one speed, Brunson does it better than anybody else, where it's like, and Jimmy Butler does it too, where it's just like, all right, I got the ball in my hands. The rules of basketball say that unless I, do something dumb, I'm going to have the ball in my hands. No one's going to take it from me. I can do whatever I want, get to wherever I want, and then, decide then. There doesn't need to be, there does not need to be an offensive flow when Joel is out there. The offense can just be Maxey because we've seen it. There is no flow. I mean, ideally there would be. There just isn't.
David Murphy, columnist, Inquirer. What happens tonight, brother?
Dude, I got no idea, man. I really don't. I don't know what's going on with Joel's knee. I
know. It's not a fair question.
I don't think he would be out there. I don't think he would be out there if there was something structurally wrong with it, or if they thought he could make it worse.
Yeah, I saw Keith wrote about that. I was like, well, I don't think you're risking his future. I think it is what it is, right? You're not risking his future. I mean, and I mean, God bless him, and I appreciate his nationalism, but I don't care about the Olympics. You care about a playoff run.
Right. Yeah, and look, he's 30 years old, who knows how he might only, even if he's a normal player with a normal lifespan, he's probably only got 4 or 5 of these left in him,
Yeah.
And then who knows from
you
there.
Can't just discard them. I agree.
No. And I know a lot of people said they thought he looked severely limited after he came back. I thought he was actually, at least when he first came back on the court, I thought, I only really look at his lateral movement,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he looked like he was moving really well. I mean, on the defensive end. Now, he wasn't elevating, he was a little short on stuff, but I didn't notice a limp or anything like that. I don't know. So I don't know. I think it all depends on that. I don't think we can never have the right information to make a call on that. And beyond that, I think if he's the guy he was in the first quarter, I think that the Sixers win this series, and they could even win it going away, but if he's at all limited, it's like we say every year, then all of a sudden you're talking a serious toss up.
Yeah, I'm with you, bro. Listen, enjoy the game. We'll be reading you, my man. Thanks for hanging with us as always, buddy.
Absolutely. See you guys.
There he is, David Murphy from the Inquirer.